Welcome to Big Closet, Small Planet, brought to you by C&A Foundation, the H&M Foundation, the Rylander Foundation, and Tencel. This is done in partnership with Ecotextile News and Planet Textiles. I am Mike Schrager. So we are continuing our exploration of exciting new innovations and technologies that have the potential to transform the industry for the better. So are you ready for the next inspirational idea? Today I have Pete Santora. Hello, Pete.
Hello.
Tell us where you're coming from.
Well, I'm coming from the U.S., Atlanta, Georgia.
Atlanta, Georgia.
That's right, yes. So Barcelona, it's been quite a trip.
And what organization do you represent?
So I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at SoftWear Automation.
And what is it exactly that your company and innovation is trying to solve?
So we were originally founded by grant money from DARPA, which is the part of the U.S. Defense Department. It's the same organization that funded the internet. And the primary reason for being was we were solving for labor unavailability. So the U.S. had a massive textile industry that all but disappeared. So the question was, how do we make our own clothes for the military and or other people?
So there was a conscious effort to find a solution to make clothing because the textile industry didn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, the U.S. military has to make their clothing in the U.S. They can't outsource military clothing to China. That would not be great. So with just over about 140,000 workers in that industry making those clothing, they saw it as a potential risk in the future. So they started to invest capital into that. And what they do is they're not looking to commercialize solutions. They're just looking to offset risk. Can it be done? Can it not be done? And so they put just enough money to figure out what can and cannot be done.
So then tell us specifically, what is it that your innovation does?
Yeah, so our innovation is like Tesla for sewing. So we use cameras and sensors to map fabric, and then we use robotics to steer the fabric through the sewing needle. So the main technical challenge, and the reason why 95% of your clothing is done by hand, is because fabric distorts. We like it breathable, we like it stretchy, we like it, comfortable. All these things make it really difficult. If it was a hard good, like you can think automotive, immediately you see lots of robotics, right? But as soon as you go to soft things that distort, you can pull them, they change. If you touch them with your fingers, they curl. As soon as you go into that category, automation has failed, and robots have failed in this industry for quite some time.
Okay, so then you're creating a software, a hardware? What is it actually that you do?
So primarily it's machine vision. That's the cameras and sensors. So we have to be able to see. We have to be able to feel. So we create robotics that can take that information and use it to manipulate the fabric. And then we have to be able to manage. So we then create the control software. So inside of software automation, we have machine vision teams. We have robotics teams, hardware and mechanical engineers, and we have software engineers that are building the software that controls how all these things talk together.
And so if successful using robotics to cut and sew and to make clothing, I was going to ask what this was going to replace in terms of the existing. I have some ideas, but is this essentially going to replace the need for workers in the supply chain to make our garments? Yeah,
good question. What it does is go from a position of labor unavailability to labor availability wherever you are. So rather than merely looking for the next unheard of country, right, that you can barely get in the side door and you're not sure whether or not how long you're going to stay there. This constant search for the next cheapest country, right? Most of those, a lot of these places are the simple goods, right? The very basic kind of low skill goods to get started. These are goods that travel long distances to get to where the end consumer is. And so it's also the toughest conditions to kind of work under. I mean, everyone kind of remembers the collapse of the building in Bangladesh that had all the factory workers. But again, a lot of these are doing very simple basics like jeans or t-shirts. There's not that much margin in them. So what we're doing really is making that capability available anywhere in the world, so that brands can deliver them to their customers faster.
And so what would you say is the sustainability benefit? What is the potential of this?
Well, we've had it calculated by Fashion for Good, and the consultants. So it's 10% of a t-shirt's CO2 would be removed immediately. 10% is a very big number per t-shirt, but that's how much just transportation is involved in that t-shirt.
Okay, so by being able to make your clothes wherever you want, as opposed to where we're getting them made today, we could avoid transportation, which would reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Yeah,
it's one of those complex problems that has lots of interconnected pieces, right? And so all you try and do in the very beginning is say, what can we absolutely take away, right? Just fundamentally, if you're shipping it from China to New York and I make it in North Carolina and ship it to New York, what will that remove, right? 10%. Great. That's a good starting point. At least we know that's true. Then, okay, what are our materials? How do we get them? Right. Then we start getting all the added benefits.
Into the nuances.
That's right.
Of it. Okay. Yeah. So, take a step back because, how long do you think it will be till this becomes a standard way for our industry to operate?
I think it takes a very long time to get to this point, and then I think you wake up one day and they're in 100 factories and you're like, oh, that was an overnight success. So we've been at it for 13 years, right? From idea to initial funding, and then from initial funding to now, maybe that's been about 5 years in that last stage. But I mean, I literally have had companies say, "Oh, I've been following you since." I'm like, was I even born then when you were following us? I don't know what the. It takes a long time, but then and everyone's very, very skeptical of being the first. But as soon as they see it produce a T-shirt, so in this case, the big innovation is going to be taking this technology and applying it to make a whole T-shirt, from cut pieces to finished T-shirt. And just as some numbers, the U.S. capacity for making T-shirts is 100 million. That's how many T-shirts the U.S. can make. But we consume 3.3 billion, going up about 5% every year.
You mean what we can make given current circumstances?
Given current labor availability in factories and all of those things, right? So we get 750 million T-shirts from Honduras. We get 640 million T-shirts from China. And then we have a whole list of countries, from Jordan to all around the world producing T-shirts for us. So our goal for this line is to produce in 7 to 10 years 1 billion T-shirts in the U.S. for the U.S. market. So the numbers start to 10% per T-shirt starts to make a really big difference.
Right. So I'm seeing a real disruption in this industry based on what you're hoping happens very soon.
Yeah.
Which is robotics at an affordable price, being able to produce things at scale locally that has a environmental benefit if done right.
Yes.
Right? Because you're not doing things locally, you still are shipping maybe materials, but that can also change. It also has a potential dramatic effect on the labor garment workers in other countries, and that is changing, as I understand. Anyway, there's an assumption that digitalization and robotization is coming to production countries anyway, and there needs to be some sort of discussion of how they're going to adapt to this inevitability. Do you have any views on that?
We just put too much fear and pressure on robotics, or fear and focus on robotics. Robotics didn't kill the automotive industry. Tariffs killed the automotive industry. NAFTA killed the automotive industry. NAFTA does more, tariffs and trade partnerships do more damage than anything else. Robotics are really a response to this question. When you had 100,000 workers in Mauritius, when they ended the quota system in 2005, it went down to 45,000 workers. There wasn't a robot that came in and took 55,000 jobs, right? Where those workers went, they all went into hospitality. They went into some of the other manufacturing facilities, and then they had to figure out how the older workers provided benefits for some period of time. We have to start doing some of those same things, but it's never really about, robotics is incredibly difficult. It's usually singular in its task, right? It's not asked to do 50 things. Very purposeful. And when you look at Elon Musk trying to do Tesla and automate everything, it fails. You can't. So you have to be very specific and goal-oriented about what you're trying to accomplish with robotics. I think AI has been blown up to be very all empowering and all encompassing. It's not. And what we really need to think about is each country needs a strategy. What is the strategy of that country? If your strategy is t-shirts, that's a dumb strategy anyway. It's very basic. That will be automated. So if you move that worker up one step, give them a few extra skills, you're doing higher margin operations for higher margin goods, everyone's going to be more successful. So I think the countries need to look at their strategy. They need to evaluate what they can, what they can be the best at moving forward, and then who they're supplying to. Asia, the US, should all be part of their strategy. And with a growing population, less poor than ever before as a world, there's more people buying more clothing than ever before. So there's plenty of opportunity.
So what do you think needs to happen now? You've been working for 13 years or so to go over that threshold.
Get over the threshold. There has to be more partnership. The supply chain is complex. This idea of innovation, people think is doing pilots. It's not. That's not innovation. That's you taking a pop shot without consensus of a much larger group, which is what you need to make a difference. Innovation should be about making a difference. So we need more partnership between the brands and the manufacturers. And when I say partnership, the way they use the term now, not good enough. We need joint ventures, right? We need skin in the game from both sides to say, hey, we're mission driven based off of this. This is where we want to get. This is our strategy. I'm not going to tell you what my sales are for 5 years and then only give you 12 months of orders, dear manufacturer, because that represents no trust. Because then the manufacturer can't say, oh, I want to buy all this stuff if you're only going to give me 12 months orders, right? So if you're in a joint venture, both have skin in the game, you're both trying to accomplish a mission together, it will enable much more to happen in innovation.
Okay. So
and one more quick stat on innovation. The apparel industry uses less than 1% of revenue on research and development. It's the smallest of any industry, any major industry. Google uses about 28%. So, it's difficult to continue to move into this innovation category if you're not also putting up the innovation resources or energy.
And I would say, extending that, yes, we've also found that the amount of money being set aside to invest in ideas like yours is pretty small, and the amount of money that's needed, likely, right, if you were to be a betting person on how many things you need to bet on for a few to succeed to transform this industry. If you translate it into money, we're not even coffee money at that point, as we see it. Do you agree with that?
I do, and the other thing about it is, let's say a big brand says, okay, we want to do innovation. I'm going to put aside $100 million. No, they've never done. I haven't heard of that yet, but let's just say they did. No one wants to take the shot with that money at scale because they're all afraid they're going to lose their job, right? Because really they don't have all the partnerships in the supply chain to be able to offset the risk. So even if one group decided that 100 million was a good amount of money to pump into something, it's not as important as having everyone down that supply chain putting in money, because ultimately what it does is it offsets the risk for all the decision makers up and down the supply chain, that, hey, if we fail, I'm not going to lose my 20-year-old, 30-year-old job, and I'm a 60-year-old white male, which is what most of the decision makers are up and down the line, right? So in the precarious positions, and they've reached a senior level place. So we need to help them offset the risk all the way up and down the supply chain. And so that's why joint ventures, things with skin in the game, really are where innovation in this industry will take off.
Very helpful. Skin in the game, and also a model to dilute the risk.
Yes.
So that people can join these high-risk ventures, but put money in at the level that needs to be.
They're much more high risk than the regular. Than you turn on the TV and you see innovation everywhere, right? Facebook, what are all these things, right? We started as this little company doing. Okay, there's not that many people in the Facebook supply chain, right? I mean, you got to get people onto your platform, but you could do that gradually. This is a very interconnected industry, right? Where if you change the properties of cotton one place, it could affect everyone, up and down the stream, and then it affects the consumer because suddenly they don't like the touch of it, the hand feel or something. So that's why that's why everyone is so risk adverse, because of all the different parties that are involved. But the models right now that exist that are going to move the fastest with technology that is successful are going to be those ones that have offset that risk through tighter relationships and shared visions.
Pete, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.